I am excited to be joined by Tim Urban, who was the keynote for this year's annual conference in Las Vegas. He gave an exciting and very intellectual conversation about artificial intelligence, and we're going to talk a little bit about that with him. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
What was your perspective, or what were you thinking about when we engaged you to come and speak to financial analysts about artificial intelligence? What were your first thoughts?
Well, the first thing is, in the financial analyst world, this is very relevant. AI is, like a lot of industries, it is enhancing that job, all different kinds of jobs throughout that, litigation and, all the different, there's so many different jobs within the financial consulting world that are currently, sometimes, you don't even realize that that part of the job is already being, very enhanced by AI and analytics and stuff like that. But you don't even realize, but it is, and that's going to happen a lot more. So I thought that this is relevant to the people in the room and their jobs, but it's also relevant to every human because it's a little like when electricity started infiltrating the world 150 years ago. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, that's relevant. So it's a combo here. It's a double whammy of relevance, I would say, to the people in that room.
One of the top topics that you brought up that was quite interesting was that there's a lot of artificial intelligence happening around us in our daily lives that we aren't really aware of. Can you talk about some of those things that we just probably don't even realize?
Yeah, no, it's actually a guy named John McCarthy who coined the term artificial intelligence in the 50s. And he used to get frustrated and said, when it works, no one calls it AI anymore. So people think AI is still this science fiction idea. And he's like, no, it is very real, but just you don't realize it. So I think that's starting to change. People are starting to understand that AI is a very big part of life. But half the apps on your phone are run by AI without you realizing. Or, you can use the example of just you go on Amazon and you buy something and it says, people who bought this also bought, or, recommended for you. And the recommendations are getting better and better. On my Instagram, those ads, they know me weirdly well. I'm like, I do want that. I didn't know I wanted that, but now I do. No human is going to be able to sit back and personalize something to you. But an AI can, and AI can get smarter and smarter, and so weird, it knows stuff that I want that I'm not even sure how it figured that out. I'm like, how did you know? I'm not even sure I've mentioned that. How did you know? But it just knows me well, right? And so this is this strange concept. It's in our cars. Your anti-lock brake system is run by AI. That's why it works so well. It's brilliant in a way that no dumb system that's just triggered on by a certain thing or not, could ever be that good. When you buy a flight, the price of that ticket and the gate you land in, those are all set by AI. So it's actually, as you walk through your day today, you are going to be enhanced by all these little AI assistants all around you all the time without realizing it, and that's going to happen more and more and more.
You also spoke about this next 2018 to 2025 as the next space age, and the revolutions of the Earth around Mars and the whole possibility of colonizing, another planet, and how AI would be part of that innovation and that science and that travel. Talk a bit about that concept in your speech.
Yeah. So it's. I would say that it's one of many things that are happening right now that if you look carefully, you see happening, but no one's talking about it quite yet. But everyone's going to be talking about it. So, it's such a big deal to colonize Mars. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. I mean, the great leaps for all of life are, you can fit on one hand, the first organism, the first complex cell, first multi-cell ocean to land, one planet to two planets, literally fits on that hand. And that's going to happen in our lifetime. So what the plan is, mid-2020, SpaceX, their plan is to send human to Mars. So the Neil Armstrong of Mars, whoever he or she is going to touch down in mid-2020s, maybe the late 2020s. Unless something goes really wrong, this seems like it's actually going to happen, which kind of makes the 2020s a new space decade. It's very exciting for anyone who missed the 60s, and I did, and I'm regretful about that because that would have been a lot of fun. So we get our own now. But I think we're actually moving towards a world where every 26 months, Earth and Mars are next to each other. It's like two tracks, two racers on a track, and they, Earth laps Mars every 26 months. And when that happens, first there's just going to be a few ships going, but the vision is that a few decades down the road, there are 100,000 people going to and from Mars every 26 months. This regular commuter route. And you and I and a lot of people will have the opportunity, if you want to go to Mars. Part of SpaceX's goal is not only to make it safe and actually possible to go to Mars, but to make it affordable. The goal is that it costs under $500,000 for a round trip ticket, which you can almost you can take a loan and almost pay it off like a mortgage. Eventually, that might even get lower, down to $100,000. This is Elon Musk's estimate, could get to $100,000. So that is accessible to lots and lots of people, and it should be entirely safe, and it's a round trip. So it's this very strange concept that many people will actually go to Mars. That's very odd, but it's actually true.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It is.
You explain the concept of how AI learns so rapidly. You expressed how there was a system that learned how to play Space and Galaga or Space Invaders so quickly, and chess and checkers, and then it just exponentially has this intelligence, and it doesn't look back.
Yeah.
Which then creates for some this fear or this anxiety, and all the individual, I guess all of us are kind of in this, what's it going to do? How is it going to impact us? How is it going to make our lives better or worse? And the ethics involved in that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of your talking points from your presentation on those elements.
Yeah, it is an intense concept that if you look at the pattern, if you look at the, what we've seen so far is that you have AI taking on a new game, whether it's checkers or chess or Go is the more recent example, poker. And it starts off very bad at it, and then it gets better and better. It can start beating some humans, and eventually it can start competing with experts, and then eventually it's far and away the best in the world. It's better than all the experts simultaneously. And so we can look at that pattern and see the story is that the order that these games are falling to AI in has to do with degrees of freedom in the game. So the more options you have for a move, so tic-tac-toe, not very many options. You have 8 squares after the first move. But then checkers, you have more degrees of freedom, more options. Chess, even more, and you can keep going. The degrees of freedom in a game at which an AI can win is growing. And so then you start to think, well, what else is a game with degrees of freedom? Maybe when you get eventually the economy, war, cancer research. And so on some some ways we're like, oh yeah, what if the AI gets as good at figuring out cancer as it has figuring out chess? That's great for everyone. That is an unbelievable development. War, maybe not.
Right.
It's a little bit scary. So this is the theme with AI in general, is that there's so much possibility for good and excitement here. So many of our problems could be solved. And there's also a lot of fear for good reason. We don't know how this is going to go. We've never done this before. We can look at the past and say every time there's been a new technology, everyone's scared, and it turns out to be not just okay, but no one wants to go back at the end. It's better. That might be the case here. This might be another example of that. And they'll look back and laugh at the people in 2018 who talked about this is bad, we shouldn't do it. And they're saying, of course, they always think that, and no one would ever want to go back to imagine going back to the barbaric and sad and scary world of pre-AI. That's what people might say. Or this could be different. This could just be a totally different example because it's just much more intense, and we're building something smarter than we are. We've never done that before, and we may look back and say this we didn't do this right, and now we can't fix it necessarily. Maybe you can fix it, but maybe the AI who's in charge now, just like we're in charge of any chimp in the world if we want to be, the AI is in charge now, and if it doesn't want us to take it back and change it, then we won't be able to. Right. And so we got to get it right. This is not something where we can have a buggy 1.0 software and, no, we'll fix it later. We'll get better later. Let's just get something out there. We want to do the first version right here because it could be the only version we get. We maybe not, but maybe. And so if it's the only chance we get, we really want to make sure that this first thing is very, very aligned with our values.
Well, and to that point, you made a comment that there's an opportunity and a space for people interested in philosophy and education and ethics, to get into this AI space, because that's the kind of intelligence, human intelligence, that can help craft how it's employed, and an opportunity there. And speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think right now there's lots of, people do stuff because of social reward usually. So right now, it's, you're very socially rewarded if you become a billionaire, or if you make a huge impact on the planet. You build a huge company and it seems to be doing good. And so you have all kinds of people going for the glory and going because they want to change the world and they want to build a huge company. So there's all kinds of AI development efforts, or they want to take their existing company and make it a lot more efficient, profitable. So they will put all this effort into AI development. That's fine, but there needs to be a counter force, or at least a side-by-side force of AI safety development. So people who are almost, who are talking about how we can do this in a way that's going to end up being making our future way better, not way worse. And the problem is, it's hard to figure out how, if you want to make a self-driving car safe, well, we know how to do that. We know we have to just have the right sensors and the right understanding. That's straightforward. What's not straightforward is kind of how you make something that's smarter than all humans safe. It's a very odd and hard question, and so you can't just look at technology. Oh, let's put a way to shut it down, or a way to it's beyond that. It's actually, we have to figure out what is even good and bad in the world. Different people disagree on good and bad. So if we're building this eternal thing that could be like a dictator that is in charge, well, who's decided what its values are? Because it doesn't decide its own values. Someone programmed it, unless maybe the programming is something like programming it to decide what we would do if we were better. I mean, these are weird, 3 steps, kind of things that are actually meta programming that's being talked about. But the point is that when you're doing something so different and so groundbreaking, it's like when the U.S. started. It was a time for philosophy. What should a country be? What should a government's limitations be? Stuff like that. We had to actually, philosophy became critically important in that moment. I think we might be in another moment here where people think a lot of times philosophy is you're in your ivory tower and it's fun and it's interesting, but it's not important in the world. This is, I think, becoming very important. Ethics, philosophy, and to talking about what we even want if we're building an eternal dictator. What should it care about? What should it value? What should the rules be, the new rules? So I think that there's room for people going into ethics, and philosophy. There's also room for people just going into different forms of AI safety research. And I think that we need social rewards there. I think we all need to, right now, what the coolest thing you can do, most of the country is, be a soldier. That is, everyone takes their hat off to you because you're doing great service. Someone doing AI research, AI safety research, is also doing great service. Is also helping us stay safe, maybe in an even more grand way in the long run. So we need to treat AI safety researchers like soldiers, and have and just say, oh well, good for you for going into that, and then the social rewards will lead more people to want to do it. Right now, no one's thinking it's that important, so we need to change our mind about that.
Yeah. Well, that was a great way to particularly end your presentation by a positive opportunity for the future, and younger people who will experience and benefit, or actually experience more of AI than like myself. I'm getting a little aged.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for a great opening to our conference, and we appreciate your participation.
All right, thanks for having me. It was a really great crowd. Thank you.